गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। ॐ योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्नाम् अन्याश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं प्राणान् नमो पुरुषाय तुभ्यं प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं। We are in chapter 5, section 1, sutra number 53. Prakashate kwapi patre Prakashate kwapi patre. So just now we saw that the Anirvachaniya Prema Swarupam, this as the love and its essence, it is Anirvachaniyam, it cannot be spoken of. It can be experienced, but it cannot be spoken of. Mukha Swadanavata, meaning that it is just like a dumb fellow has tasted the sweets but is unable to express. He has got no instruments available. No instrument is capable of expressing what he is feeling inside, what he is experiencing inside. Similarly, this seeker who has got this fountain of love bubbling within him in that deep silence, he is unable to express. His body is not able to express that. His mind is not able to express that, meaning emotions are not able to express that. His thoughts or thought process are not able to express that. Then what does he do? Having tears in the eyes is not equal to realization. Having horripilation on the body is not equal to realization. Being in ecstasy is not equal to realization. All these are just signs, symptoms of you on the path. As you go closer and closer, as the love expands more and more, these are the symptoms. But what is that ultimate stage? It cannot be explained. It is not any one of these, but it is all of these put together plus something more. And here Devrishi Nagaraj is again pointing to us that in some rare ones who are fit recipients, this pure love is found to manifest. Meaning this is not a freely available manifestation. Yes, the love is freely available, but its manifestation is in certain rare cases to its fullest. And who are these people? These are such rare masters. And is this environment which is there in the rare masters so that this love is able to express, is it not there within us? Yes, it is there. You are also made up of the same things that any great master or a great devotee is made up of. But have you polished yourself enough? Have you gone through the tapasya enough? Have you shed all the load enough of your memories, of your impressions, of your inhibitions, of your fears? Then alone this will express through you. If you haven't got it, you haven't got it. If you got it, you have always got it. It is not, yeah, I'm almost there. I know, I just tasted it. No, you didn't taste it then. Your mind is imagining. Like some people, some say, shake hand. No, I ask them, try shaking hands. So they shake hand. I said, try. You are shaking hands. Try. Swamiji, how can I try? Either I can shake hands or I can't shake hands. Exactly that way. Try eating food. How do you try eating food? Either you eat food or you don't eat food. What is trying? Similarly, either you have experienced the love in your heart or you have not experienced the love in your heart. And that experience the love in the heart, it is free of all symptoms. It's free of all signs. Because you will not be available to all those things. Your mind is totally absorbed. Once the river meets the ocean, it does not have any identity left. Then where is all that bubbling of the river? Where is that continuous rushing of the river towards the ocean? It's all gone for that part of the river which has merged into the ocean, isn't it? But the same waters which were there before, the same waters are in the ocean. But now they don't have a separate identity that we are rushing towards the ocean. Now they are bubbling out of joy. And so also this mind is not available to the tears, to the horripilations, to the ecstasy. But as long as the mind is there, and the merging has not happened, till then you will experience this. Once you have merged, then there is no one to take ownership of that. Then for such a person, for such rare ones, then there is no sense of separation between the devotee, the seeker that he is, and the love that he is aspiring for. And in this way, just like the river melts or merges into the ocean, or that iceberg melts into the water, similarly this devotee merges and melts into the ocean of love, this infinite ocean of love. And this is only possible when there is Shraddha in our heart, when there is faith in our heart. It says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam, the Upanishad say. Shraddhavan, those who have faith alone can know the truth. Those who have faith in the Lord alone can come to merge into the Lord. Without faith, a mechanical repetition, a mechanical exercise of meditation, it's not going to take us anywhere. And in this way, is it possible? Yes, again, because it is said in some rare ones who are fit recipients. Is this goal difficult to attain for everyone? No, it is not difficult to attain, but it is not possible for everyone until unless they don't become fit, they don't become qualified. And that qualification is not only having faith but also having intense love for that Lord within your heart. And and such a person, whether he is working in the world, whether he is doing a job, whether he is a mother or a father or a grandfather or a grandmother, does not matter. Any place they find, such a person, fit recipient, doesn't make an excuse with regards to his age, with regards to his ailments, with regards to his position in life, with regards to the situation that he finds himself in, but instead he is continuously from inside is again and again trying to get to that Divine Lord. A small child, hundreds of times he falls down, but he learns to walk eventually, isn't it? If the parents say, no, 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 don't walk, you will hurt yourself if you stand up. Will that child ever walk then? Isn't it? Similarly, this devotee is such who, in spite of many failures, in spite of many distractions, continues to keep striving towards that Divine Lord. It's not the fall will happen, but important thing is how many times we get up from that fall and continue towards our destination, towards our love of life, which is the Lord. That is important. And the one who is able to invoke this, the one who is able to get up every time, such people become the rare ones. Otherwise, majority of us, no, the moment I sit for meditation, so many thoughts come, therefore I stop meditation. I want to sit and meditate, but it is hot. Swamiji, can we bring a cup of tea for the class? And they are stuck to their teapot instead of the Lord. Those are the caricatures of devotees. And this way, what is that zero moment when the grace will flow? When is the grace zero moment? When is that moment when all your vasanas have been destroyed and you become the patra, you become the vessel for the Lord to pour Himself in? But when is that moment? Well said. But when does that now moment come? It is right now, but is it happening? Then why is it not happening? Because the mind is not empty yet. But when will it become empty? It is said, it will take millions of years, hundreds of lifetimes for you to empty your mind. Because we don't know how many impressions we have collected in our past lives, isn't it? So, have you already dissolved many of those, or are you still to dissolve many more in the future? Do you know that? You don't know that. So, is the next minute going to be the moment when the Lord pours Himself into your heart? Who was telling me that on the railway station, you told me just now, that one person was sitting on the railway station, boom, he got realized. And became a guru and had a huge following. And he called her and she didn't go. See? So where does it happen? Does it happen at the railway station? Does it happen on the toilet seat? Does it happen under a tree? Does it happen when you are sitting in a train? Is there any special place that only when you are on the seat of meditation, that you are in front of the Lord, that you are doing the puja, or you are doing the chanting of the name of the Lord, only then your mind will become empty? You don't know whether next moment is the moment of that divine grace, even though the grace is always. So what is stopping from the grace to flood your heart? Your impressions. When are those impressions going to finish completely? You don't know that. It can happen next moment. It can happen in the evening. It can happen when you go to sleep in the afternoon. It can happen when you are having that first morsel of food during lunchtime. It could be with the next breath. Any moment it can happen. And therefore, we must strive again and again and again and again and again. Because we don't know when it may happen. But it will happen for sure. Provided we are available to it. And therefore, only such rare people who have done this tapasya. What is this tapasya? Of being alert and vigilant and being available to that divine grace. For that, you have to keep striving. We want to be idle. We want to be in the most comfortable position, in the most comfortable chair, in the comfort of our room, in the comfort of our clothes, with the right temperature in the room, and then we say, now I am going to remember the Lord. And the moment you start remembering, sleep comes because it's so comfortable. How will the Lord is also waiting. After all this preparation, I think I got some person who's really striving hard. At least he started from the outside, but the moment he comes inside, he goes to sleep. So, and therefore it is rare that such people of such caliber, of such acumen, of such single-pointedness, of such alertness, of such striving are very rare to find. What could be the feeling in that child's heart when his parents told him that go and show the prasad to the Lord? And he went, and that statue did not eat the prasad. What is the feeling that child must have had in his? That why don't you eat? What have I done wrong? That you are not eating. Every day my father brings, you eat. He didn't know that he eats or not. But you accept the prasad from my father, why you are not accepting from me? Or we go into the temple, thank you very much, so nice. But it's only a statue. Immediately they start thinking. For an idle person, there is no grace possible. Success is possible only for the one who is striving hard towards that success, isn't it? Just sitting at home, success doesn't come. No, Swamiji, some people don't do anything and they become successful. It's their prarabdha. So you wait for prarabdha, maybe your prarabdha is going to be after 1,000,000 years. You wait then, 1,000,000 lives. Wait till then and be comfortable. So, only those who have intense faith in the divine grace, and because of that intense faith, they will strive alertly every moment, be awake to that moment that it's going to happen now, not with an expectation, but know that it will one day, at one moment. And in this way, such a seeker comes to this conclusion in his life that I have lived my life, I have done the right things in my life, I have worked, I have not cheated anyone, I have taken care of my wife and husband, I have taken care of my children, I have given them good education, I have given them good environment for them to grow, I have got them married, I have whatever I had to do and what I could do towards my children, towards my family, towards my parents, I have done to the best of my ability. There is no guilt feeling in my heart. And because I have been doing the right thing in my life, then the Lord will also do the right thing with me. That He will flood my heart with His love. He has to. There is no question. When this faith enters into our heart because we have done the right thing in our life, then Lord will come. Only to such people it will come, otherwise it will not. Because if one guilt is there in the heart, how will He come? Because that's the dirt in the heart. If heart is dirty, He will not enter. And therefore, the more we practice with faith, the more faith comes. The more faith comes, the more surrender happens, the more conviction increases, the more single pointedness increases, and again this the longing, the pining, the yearning for the Lord, it only increases with faith, not any other thing. And this way, in the verse 54th, Narad Muniji continues to say, Gunarahitam Kamanarahitam Pratipakshana Vardhamanam Pratikshana Vardhamanam Avichinnam Sukshmataram Anubhavarupam Gunarahitam Kamanarahitam Pratikshana Vardhamanam Avichinnam Sukshmataram Anubhavarupam. When this pure love is, you come face to face with it, what is it? Just penultimate step. The recognition is this pure love is without attributes, without the poison of desires, every moment increasing, unbroken, subtlest, of the nature of sheer immediate experience. So in here, the Narad Muniji, Sage Narada, is throwing light upon what this pure love is, what are its attributes, can it be explained, and only in certain, this language is used for Brahman, for Atma, and same thing is used for the Lord of love. Gunarahita is devoid of all attributes, means it cannot even be described as love for my God. Someone has Shiva, someone has Krishna, someone has Rama, someone has Jesus. No. It is that one which includes everything. That love we are talking about. It is not one so chosen single entity or image that you are having in your mind. It cannot be. It cannot be a limited idea to which, from which this infinite love can emanate. It has to be that love which includes everything, which is whole, which is complete. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Out of which anything that is taken out, it is still complete. It is that love that is being talked about, and that infinite love cannot have any attributes. It cannot be understood by the mind or the intellect. It is Kamana Rahitam. It is this pure love, and this love which the river is having for the ocean. Can our river imagine how vast the ocean is? Can a wave imagine how vast the ocean is? Can our teeny mini mind, which is only me, my body, my family, my children, my parents, my job, my bills, my house, my car, can this mind ever imagine what that infinite love is? Okay, it has withdrawn from all these things and it has come to that threshold, still trying to work out what this world is. All it is seeing is through the window of its mind. The mind, its mind is only that much wide. Okay, now it has become that much wide. But as much wide the mind may expand, that love divine, that supreme love is even more infinite than that. The relative infinity is a speck in the infinite infinity. Is a speck. Just like this infinite creation is only a speck in the entire infinite space. So which infinite is more bigger? Is the infinite space bigger or the infinite creation bigger? See? So relatively our experience is that the creation is infinite, isn't it? But even larger than that is this infinite space. Even larger than that is our infinite mind. Even larger than that infinite mind is the infinite consciousness of the infinite love, the infinite Lord. So, how big are we? Minuscule. Not worth putting attention on. So you have to really work hard for that infinite to give you attention. So kamana rahitam, this love is without desire. Kamana is desire, rahitam is without. So this pure love, this pure identification with the Lord, this continuous stream of love which is going in your mind towards the Lord, it is without any desire. You don't want to get anything from Him. You don't want to accomplish anything from Him. You don't want to gain anything from Him. You are just in love with Him because you are in love with Him. That's it. And this experience of love we have. Mothers love their children, not expecting ki bada hone, after he grows up, he will take care of me. They don't. They just do it, isn't it? Because that's the right thing to do. At that moment, that love expresses. So the love with desire is called lust. Love without desire is the pure love. Love is its own fulfillment, as we said before. In lust, we live to gain the joys. We live for the joys. Through lust, we want to experience the joys. Whereas in love, lives the joy. The reverse fulfillment is in becoming one with the ocean. Ocean's fulfillment is in its own, it's of the nature of bliss. So love is of the nature of bliss. Lust experiences that finite bliss as a result of that desire, of result of that possession. Love gives, lust takes. Lust demands, love sacrifices. And in this way, the kamana rahita, the love is kamana rahita, and it is not it is that stage which comes in within us where we are aware that the desires are erupting, but you are not disturbed by the eruption of the desires in your mind. Even this stage is no longer present in such a mind, which is free of desires. Because it's pure awareness, pure love moving towards that infinite love. The love in your mind and your heart seeking that infinite love. There is, as you move towards it, nothing is left between you and the Lord. Then what is there? Before there is a thought that I am remembering, I am taking the name. Eventually what happens in the silence? I am and the Lord is. That's it. Both face to face. What do you do now? Can't do anything. After you come in front of the mirror, you don't have to do anything. You just keep looking at yourself. Because you have seen how you are. But till you didn't come to the mirror, I don't know if I'm looking smart, if I don't know if my hairstyle is good, I don't know how many hair from my ear and nose are coming out, I have to trim them. Have I shaved or not? But I think I have shaved, but am I looking presentable enough? All these doubts. Because you are defining yourself through all this. But when you come in front of the mirror, all these thoughts go away. You are just there. Same way here, everything that you have been practicing, everything that you have been trying, all the emotions, all the thoughts, everything drops away. Only you and the love of your heart, they are standing opposite each other. That's the last bit. After that, what happens? Somewhere along the way, it happens. This also happens, the next stage also happens, where the I merges into its Lord. It does not even want that separation. But it cannot say that I want to merge. This is where it can come. The Lord pulls him in. Just like sleep pulls you in. Kamana rahitam. Pratikshanam. Pratikshanam is every moment it is increasing in its intensity. Pratikshanam, every moment, moment to moment, it is increasing in intensity. Is that happening in your heart? It will only happen when you are kamana rahita, when you are free of desires. Then alone it will increase. With desires, even for that Lord, yes, for some time we will feel that our love for the Lord is increasing because I am desiring, but there is willfulness, and that willfulness, when it is taken away, there is depression, there is sadness. But when of its own accord you maintain yourself in that silence with faith, remembering the Lord without any expectation, without any desire, it keeps welling up, it keeps welling up, it keeps welling up, it keeps welling up. Every moment. Pratikshanam. And it keeps multiplying, and as it keeps multiplying, it goes deeper and deeper, it goes wider and wider, till it envelops everything that you are all about. And in this way, eventually, avicchinnam. Avicchinnam is this experience of the love of this seeker with his Lord. It is unbroken, it's continuous, unbroken stream. Now he cannot, he's just like when you are in a whirlpool. What happens? You have not been in a whirlpool, but you have seen pictures, or you must have seen tornadoes. Once you are caught up in in the whirlpool, you get sucked in. There is no question of coming out. If you are picked up by a tornado, you don't know where you are. You are just where it takes you, it takes you. Similarly, once you get caught in the whirlpool of divine love, it sucks you in. And it becomes continuous. That momentum does not stop till you reach into the core. Once you get into the whirlpool, you will not remain only on the outside. It will take you deep into its, into the core of the whirlpool. Same way, here, avicchinnam, this unbroken experience of this divine love is experienced by the devotee, not only in his mind, not only in his intellect, not only in his heart and head, but in every aspect of his life. How do you divide your life as the waking experience, dream experience, and deep sleep experience? In all these three planes of existence, such a devotee now experiences this love. In the deep sleep, he is awake to this love. In dream, he is awake to this love. In waking, he is awake to this love. It becomes a continuous stream. Otherwise, ours is in the class, we sing the bhajans, in the deep sleep, we snore. Difference. There is no divinity there in deep sleep for us. We are not aware of it. So, when it becomes such people, then initial stages, they start in the dreams, they will see their beloved Lord, they will see the Mahatmas, they will see have transcendental experiences, but everywhere they will keep seeing the Leela of whoever their beloved Lord is. But when we when we transcend that also, as we said it was Gunarahitam, then this unbroken experience of divine bliss, this divine communion continues in and through all the states that we go through. It is constant and through all conditions of our life, whether we are at work, whether we are in the kitchen, whether we are doing gardening, does not matter. It does not leave you anymore, because you are not leaving it anymore. You are both stuck like a magnet to a iron filing. And in this way, this love which is unbroken, which is increasing every moment by moment, which is without any qualities, without any attributes, which cannot be put into words, such a love is sukshmataram. It has to be the more subtler than the subtlest. It cannot be that gross love that we experience for our children, for our relatives, for the objects of the world. It is very, very, very subtle. And it has to be subtle. And everything that is subtle, how subtleness is explained in our scriptures is, anything that is subtle is pervasive. Ice is gross. When it becomes subtle, it becomes water. Water is gross. When water becomes subtle, it becomes water vapor. Ice, a piece of ice like this occupies that much surface area. If this is melted, becomes subtle, it will occupy that much of surface area. Even that, the heat is applied, it becomes subtler, the water vapor will occupy the surface area of this whole room. So, the subtler a thing, more pervasive it is. And this love that is being experienced by the seeker towards the Lord, it is subtler than the subtlest, meaning it becomes more and more pervasive. It expands to the infinity till there is even infinity gives up. Because infinity is also an idea in our head. How can you have an idea in your head which has no boundaries? I can think of something called Teresa, she's got a boundary, form. I can think of book, it has got a form. I can think of camera, it has got a form. I can think of this room, it has got a form. I can think of earth, it has got a form. I can think of universe, I can see different forms included in that, but I don't know. But when I say infinity, how far? What is its boundary? No, it is infinite, without boundaries. There is no experience of infinity, and yet there is. You know it, there is something called infinity, isn't it? So this love, as it keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, it goes beyond. It loses itself into that infinite. Such love cannot be limited by any concepts, not even these thoughts called eternal, all pervasive, ever pure, most ancient. All these are concepts. It is existence, consciousness, bliss. These are also concepts which are a product of our mind. But they were brought into the mind so that we think about that which is beyond the mind. Because these words indicate that which is beyond the mind. And through these words, this love is inculcated towards that infinite. But it cannot be that I love, within it you cannot have distinctions. That I love all you people because you are here and I don't love the others. I love Vishnu Bhagwan, but I don't love Shiva. I love Jesus, but I don't love Buddha. I love Buddha, but I don't love, any other thing. Allah. Nothing like this. I love because I am a Brahmin. Because you are a Shudra, I don't love you. Because I am following the path of devotion, all other paths are inferior to it. All these distinctions in such a mind vanish once and for all. Therefore, yesterday I was telling you the story of Eknath Maharaj. He went to the house of a untouchable. He ate. Lord helped him. No distinctions whatsoever. It is not limited by any ideas, any concepts. And therefore, once all these distinctions are dropped by the mind, then what this mind becomes? It becomes filled with that love of your mind, love of your heart. Then that expanded mind, which has broken all the boundaries, itself becomes Narayana, itself becomes Shiva, itself becomes the Krishna consciousness, itself becomes the Jesus consciousness, itself becomes the Allah. Whatever your belief is, does not matter with what you started. And that ideal pervades that mind. And in this way, the devotee who has come to this understanding that the love that he is feeling for the Lord is without attributes, it is without desires, it is growing every moment more and more in its depth and its pervasiveness. It is continuous, unbroken flow towards that supreme divinity. It is subtler than the subtlest. In these moments, the last word that Narad Muniji uses is Anubhava Rupam. The devotee experiences that divine as his own self. Then that mind of the devotee becomes, he starts chanting Shivoham, Shivoham, Satchidanandoham. There is no longer search anymore. He has become one with him. He starts, who was that? Eureka, Eureka! I am that, I am that. Our Nisargadatta Maharaj screams out. And in this way, Anubhava Rupam, then the experiencer and the experienced, the mind and the love in the mind and the love, the supreme love, they both become one. There is no medium through which is separating both of them. There is no difference. Medium is there only as long as individuality is there. A medium is there as long as mind is still having even one single thought. Till then the medium is there between you and yourself. But moment that mind merges, the medium also vanishes. Everything becomes one and one alone. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The one who knows the reality becomes the reality. It all depends what frame of mind you are having. I have said this many times, world is the same, a pessimistic, having fear, attention on the challenges and obstacles, problems. He says this world is a very difficult place. I don't want to be born again. An optimist sees the same world. There is all inspiration to live, to succeed, ambition. And he says, yeah, what is the wrong? Everywhere there is opportunity. I can start any business. I can be successful in anything I put my hand, I will become successful. It is the same world. A realized master sees only the divine perfection everywhere. He neither sees the pessimism, the difficulties, neither he sees success and the opportunities. He only sees perfection. So where is the problem? The problem is not in the world. The problem is not in the creation. The problem is in our vision of the creation. So change your mindset, change your mind, purify your mind, make it single pointed, choose right company, wash it with the right thoughts and concepts which will bring you about to this experience of the one divinity. And in this way, how I see the world depends upon what is the vision, what is the medium of instrument that I am experiencing. For experiencing anything in this world, a medium of instrument is required. To interact with the world, I need the mind, I need the body, I need the senses. To see, I need eyes. To hear, I need ears. To taste, I need tongue. To smell, I need nose. To hold something, I need hands and fingers. To think, I need brain. To feel, I need heart. All these are mediums. But to experience that supreme love, I don't need a medium. All these instruments have zero value in that experience. Whether they are there or not there, you are not attached to them anymore. Because if you are attached to even one of the instruments, there will be a thought in your mind. And you have transcended all the instruments, meaning the mediums. It is a mediumless experience, this truth, this love. Here, when you go in front of a mirror is the medium which is reflecting you, isn't it? But you have not come to a point where you are seeing your reflection. Acha? No. You are it, and that's it. When the wave merges into the ocean, it becomes the ocean. It is the ocean. So it is the state of being, not becoming. Becoming happens when a medium comes into play. The same man seeing himself through the medium of wife becomes husband. The same man seeing himself through the medium of child becomes a father. The same man seeing the Lord through the medium of mind becomes emotional. The same man wanting the Lord, desiring the Lord, praying to the Lord through the medium of body starts doing worship. The same man through the medium of speech starts singing the name of the Lord, isn't it? But this experience, this transcendental experience, where this love has made him transcend all the instruments. There is nothing between him and the divine. Because he has become the divine. He is the divine now. And he does not have any language, because if he uses the language, again there will be a medium. The moment he uses the language, he has become something again. To be, there is no language required. It is his most immediate experience. Anubhava Rupam. It is not immediate, meaning without any medium, without any instruments. Narayan. Just like we saw Anurag. Anurag was what? Raga means attachment. Anu is continuous. Continuous attachment to the Lord is Anurag. Anubhava. Anu means again continuous, and Bhava means becoming. Continuous becoming. Continuous being is this Anubhava Rupam. And in this continuous becoming, there is no medium in between, and therefore it is continuous being. If we use the word Anubhavam, that there is experience, yes, there is the medium of the mind. Till here you can come. Till here you can come. Anubhava Rupam. Initial stages, your continuous flow of thoughts towards the divine theme, it's going, I explained to you before, it's going on, and you know there is no difference between him and me. Why this separation then? Why am I still thinking about you? But it is now no longer in your hands to do anything about it. We used to do hang gliding. When you do hang gliding, you go into that hang glider, jump off a cliff or a small hill, and you start going, and you watch down. You see any hot air rising, you take the hang glider on top of the hot air. Before you know, within few seconds, it takes you thousands of feet up. That's how the eagles and the vultures, they go up so high. They are not, you don't see them flapping. There is no effort involved. All they catch is a hot air rising. And how do they notice? Wherever the grass is moving. And they catch that. And the moment you come on top of it, boom, straight away, because hot air rises, you go up. Did they do anything to go up? Yet they went up, isn't it? So the same thing is happening here. All your efforts have come to this point where now continuous, unbroken flow of the love for the Lord is happening. And it takes you to that point where even this happening also stops and only you and the Lord remain. Even that also, that last, separation, that nothing else is left, only me and the Lord. And when the Lord's grace descends upon you, at that time you are absorbed into that, even that last identity of yours is swallowed up by the Lord. He destroys you as an individual. In that is His success. In destroying your individuality is your success also. But you cannot destroy your individuality. He has to destroy it. Because if you try to destroy, your individuality is maintained. You cannot destroy it. All you can do is think of the one who can, who has the ability, who has the capacity. And after that, nothing. Time pass hi time pass hai. Then such a person is just being. There is nothing more to be done, and therefore anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam, he cannot come back. Well, the mind still continues. He still continues to be in that state, but any time, like Ramana Maharishi, he is there in that continuous experience, but his mind is presented with a question. Sometimes he answers, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes the question transports his mind again to that point. Whether mind is functioning or not functioning afterwards, it does not matter to such a realized master. And therefore, such people who have experienced it to such an extent are very rare indeed. And in this way, in the 55th verse, tat prapya tadeva avalokayati tadeva shrunoti tadeva bhashayati tadeva chintayati tat prapya tadeva avalokayati tadeva shrunoti tadeva bhashayati tadeva chintayati. Having reached the supreme love, the devotee sees, feels, comprehends that alone, hears that alone, speaks of that alone, and thinks, contemplates upon that alone. Om yontah pravishya mama vacham imam prasuptam sanjeevayatya kila shakti dharasvadhamnam anyascha hastacharana shravanatvagaadin pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. You are the source of me. You are the one who is expressing through me. You are my breath. You are my soul. You are my everything. You are the one who is functioning through my eyes, through my feet, through my hands, through my speech, through my ears. I can't own anything. I cannot say that I am doing all these things. This becomes the experience, an unsaid experience of such a devotee. He cannot deny, because individual, when we chant, we are invoking that divine. Please, so that I don't make a boo-boo out of what I am speaking, please speak through my mouth. Please see through my ears, that I see only auspiciousness, that I hear only auspiciousness. May you function through my ears and take my ears only to those sounds which are helpful and conducive to my journey. Yonta pravishya, meaning pravishya means enter. May you enter my ears as hearing. May you enter my speech as speech. May you enter my eyes as seeing. So all ownership is being given up. See? Same thing is this realized master now, because his immediate experience without a thought is that one. Now, eyes are there. He still sees everything, hears everything, tastes everything, functions in this world, but nothing in this world he experiences as other than him. There is no distinction, there is no sense of otherness, there is no sense of difference. There are no distinctions. Everything is I and I alone. And that everything is I and I alone, not through a thought. It's just a knowing without a thought. You don't have to keep repeating to yourself, I am also the eyes, I am also the nose, I am also the two arms, I am also the body, I am also the digestive process, I am also the breathing apparatus, I am also the heartbeat. You don't have to keep saying that. You just know, isn't it? That all these functions put together, you are. That isn't it? You don't keep thinking about it again and again. Yes, your attention, I just scratched. Eye scratching eye. There is no feeling that I am scratching someone else, is it? I look at you, the feeling is you are other than me, isn't it? To the eyes. They are seeing something, someone else. What is the feeling when you look at yourself? I'm looking at myself. expand this to ad infinitum, where everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you touch, everything that you think, everything that you feel, everything and everyone that you interact with, space, air, fire, water, earth, senses, organs of action, thought, emotions, memories, including the ego if there is any left. Everything is I and I alone. Nothing is outside of me. Nothing is outside this love that I have experienced. That not experienced, that this love that I am. No more experienced. So that love that I am is the same I that I am. And both are inexpressible. Anirvachaniya. Chandogya Upanishad says, there where you see nothing else, where you hear nothing else you know or feel, that state is called Bhauma, the all-pervading, the infinite, the eternal, the immutable, the Brahman. There where you see other things, there where you hear other things, where you feel and understand other things, Tadalpam, that is the finite, the limited. That which is infinite is immortal. That which is finite is mortal. Same language, but in a different way. The devotee, after having merged into his love, into his supreme love, comes to see everything as it alone. And in this way, can he stay there all the time? Can the mind remain there all the time? This is a question. Can the mind remain merged all the time? If the mind remains merged, you are in samadhi all the time, isn't it? You are in samadhi. Then how does realized masters function? The scriptures say we can't explain how they function. We can make an attempt to explain, but we dare not say that this is how they function. They cannot come to the conclusion about realized masters. That they are the self also and they are expressing in this world also, but what is their vision towards the world? Scriptures can only imagine that it could be like this. In relativity, we can only imagine what infinity can be, isn't it?
But it could not have been explained, otherwise they would have explained, isn't it?
Pardon me?
Because they also went through the same, somehow the same process. But
Who?
The realized masters. They were not realized, but they were realized afterwards. But then they also see the pain of the rest of the people. They might have gone.
The mind sees, they don't.
Yeah, but in that stage only, they might have chosen to explain it, but they didn't. So that means that it's not explainable only.
It is not explainable. Once the seeker has become realized, then the world as you know it vanishes. What is the world that you know?
Me, mine, I.
Me, you, mine, yours, pain, sorrow, insult, praise, hunger, thirst, comfort, discomfort. The world is the same. I just explained before. World is the same. Pessimistic vision is different. Optimistic vision is different. Perfect man's vision is different. The world is the same. What glasses are you wearing? Yellow glasses, yellow world. Blue glasses, blue world. Black glass is black world. Clear glass is as it is. But this realized master has got no glasses. His mind is absolutely clear. Not even one iota of thought is there. And what will be his experience of the world? Therefore, all language is self-cancelling. Gunarahitam. Without any attributes. No words can explain what it is like. Tat prapya tadeva avalokayati. Avalokayati, he sees, he feels, he comprehends. Mind is there. Mind, where will the mind go? Continuously, once you come to know that experience becomes, you have transcended the mind, meaning the mind has merged back. This is the best way we can put it. The I has come to recognize that it is essentially infinite. After having recognized that, the mind still continues based upon whatever is inside it, if there is something. What will it continue with? It becomes a clean mirror. Whatever comes, it reflects without any retention. Then where is the prarabdha? Is the prarabdha in the mind or for the body for such a master? It is for the body. Mind has already been purified. Without the purification, realization was not possible, isn't it? And such a master then continues. Then you may say he is compassionate, he cares, he doesn't. Depends. How deep and intense is the call of a devotee to the teacher. Sometimes they don't even listen. One person was there. What was his name? I can't remember the name. He was a yogi. And he was a Vedanti plus a yogi. And a sannyasi. And everywhere he had one unique habit. And everyone who used to go, he used to prostrate. Do namaskar, sashtang namaskar. He look at you, lie down. So that he was going through the village, doing namaskar to the tree, doing namaskar to the persons who were walking on the street, again and again and again. And the children thought, okay, let's take a Mickey out of him. They said, hey, uncle, come here. There is this donkey lying down, do namaskar to him. In his mind there is nothing, he is seeing only divinity everywhere. He is a realized master. He does not see, what, acha chalo. And he went and did namaskar to the donkey. Donkey got up and started running. It was a dead donkey. People saw. And there was a queue. That my son has died, my wife has died, my father has died. And some people went and told Eknath Maharaj, oh Eknath Maharaj, this is how one person is there and he's done this. So this fellow was suddenly nonplussed. Why this queue? What have I done? They said, you did namaskar. What's wrong with doing namaskar? He didn't realize. He said, go to Eknath Maharaj. He will tell you what is wrong. And innocently, just like he prostrated in front of the dead donkey, so quietly he went to Eknath Maharaj. Eknath Maharaj then told him, listen, he explained to him that what you have done is good. You have done it now. But now you have created a problem for yourself. And the problem is that all these people from the village, from the neighboring villages, they are going to come and they are going to ask you to heal them, to make their beloved ones alive. Are you ready to go through? He says, it will become a problem, sir. He says, what is your, you know Mahatma is one? He says, yeah. Then what is the solution? He says, you take samadhi and give up your body. Eknath Maharaj tells this Mahatma. He says, that is a good option. Anyway, nothing dies. He says, you give up the body. Goes, all the priests and the pandits and the Brahmins in the village Again, another reason to go after Eknath Maharaj. He made him commit suicide. He made him commit suicide. He made him commit suicide. Their presence itself is enough. A person who has merged into the divine, their presence, wherever they are, there is only auspiciousness. It cannot be any other way. From whose point of view? Not the people who are looking at them, at him. From his point of view. He is not also thinking that I am spreading auspiciousness. That is his nature. Sun doesn't think that I am giving warmth to the people of earth. He doesn't say, the sun doesn't say that I am giving light and removing darkness for the people of the earth. The sun doesn't say, oh, because of me, everyone wakes up in the morning. I am doing such an altruistic job. Pat on my back. He's just being who he is, isn't it? Similarly, this great Mahatma who has come to merge himself into this divine, he is just being himself. But all around him, in our language, there is only auspiciousness, but auspiciousness. Nothing else can happen around him. Some things may seem to go the other way, but they are always auspicious. And in this way, the Tadeva Avalokayati, he sees, feels, comprehends nothing but that one alone. Just like that Swami who was doing Namaskar everywhere, he saw everything. The greatness of Eknath Maharaj is that he lived in the society, he was a Brahmin, he was scripturally, educated. He continued to do his duties, he continued to remain a Brahmin and follow the duties of a Brahmin. All those rules and regulations by which they live. But at the same time, his mind was absolutely free and all-encompassing. And yet he was continuing in that manner. This is the same thing like our Shankaracharyas. Chandrasekhar Saraswati, Abhinav Tirtha, all these, you go and see in the ashram, they have a very, very strict regimen. From morning till evening, their life is not theirs anymore. They have to start in the morning, do their puja. Someone or the other is always watching. Is he doing the right thing or just enjoying all the wealth of the ashram? And it's not that, but they have a strict regimen. They go through that. In spite of going through that regimen, exercising no choice with regards to their daily activities, everything, every moment is for the ashram. Yet they realize. How is it possible? It is possible. Yet there are Mahatmas like Swami Rama. He had become great, and he was found by some people, and they saw him in Almora or Himalayas, and they said, "You come and become the Brahma Shankaracharya of one of the smaller Shankaracharya peeth." And he went, and from the moment he went in, they said, "You can't eat this, you can't eat that. You have to sleep at this time, you have to get up at this time. In the morning you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this." He saw, within 2-3 days, he saw, "I'm in a prison, man." That I'm in a prison, living in with abandonment in the Himalayas. Suddenly he found himself, Shankaracharya post is good, to be recognized as Shankaracharya is good. But what does it entail? Choiceless existence, and every activity of yours is chalked out by the managers of the mutt. After one day, while he was sleeping, in the night he got up and wanted to run away. They caught him at the railway station, brought him back. Then he kept quiet. After 1 or 2 weeks, again he ran away. Again they caught him and they started locking him every night. They made sure someone was there with him. I think after a month or so, he managed to escape and never looked back. Vanished. They came searching for him, but they couldn't find him. Maybe we are of that category. Can't be contained anywhere. But for each one it's different. Some are able to, some are not. But that happens only on the journey. Tadeva avalokayati, tadeva shrunoti, tadeva shrunoti, he hears, tadeva bhashayati, he speaks, he hears only the truth. He speaks only the truth or about that love. So whether it is a devotee or a Vedanti, whichever way you take it, he speaks about that beloved all the time. He hears and only wants to hear about that beloved all the time. He only wants to taste, he only wants to think, he only wants to see. No, I shouldn't use the word wants. He sees. Because wants will mean he desires. Desires mean again the mind comes in. But he is that. He is all the faculties. He is the whole creation. He is the space, air, fire, water, earth. Nothing is outside of him. Everything I am, without a thought. And therefore, such a person, tadeva chintayati, he continues to think about him all the time. Involuntarily it is all happening. And therefore, here it is said that we blame that it is the Lord's Maya which is keeping us away from the Lord, isn't it? Because Maya is the big problem. Oh man, because of Maya you will fall. Because of Maya it will not allow you to, it is very, very strong, it is very, very powerful. But it is that same Maya which appears in us as the Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Ichha Shakti, isn't it? It is that same power. It is wanting to go, it is always wanting to go back to its original. Then who is not stopping? What is the obstacle that is not allowing you to merge into the divine? Is it Maya then? Is it Maya which made you get attached to your children? Is it Maya which made you fall in love with your husband or your wife? Is it the Maya which made you become identified with your body? Is it Maya? You decided to be identified with the body. You decide the unwanted thoughts in your mind and you blame Maya for it. Shakti is, we saw in Shiva Shakti Samavesh, Shakti is continuously surrendering herself to the Lord. Lord is continuously surrendering himself to the Shakti. How can that Shakti become an impediment on the journey? How can that power, the Maya Shakti, the Prakriti, how can it become an obstacle between you and yourself? It does not want to be. It always wants to be with the Lord. Then who is the obstacle? It's your own thoughts. It's your own identifications. You have cultivated those identifications. You have become identified with the body. You have become identified with that piece of metal called car. You have become identified with your piece of bricks called house. You have become identified with the seat here if someone comes and sits on your seat. Before you came, this was not your seat. After you go, it was not your seat. For these 6 days, it becomes my seat. And you blame Maya for it. So don't blame.
It's also ignorance.
Pardon me?
Maya is also ignorance, and that's true.
No, we are taking it to, say that again.
Maya is also
Yes,
and
it is.
we blame it because of our ignorance. So to some extent it is Maya also.
The Lord and the Maya, the Ishvara and the Maya, the Shiva and the Shakti, it is the natural phenomena which is expressing through the creation. It's an eternal phenomena. Correct? It is eternal phenomena. To bring that phenomena of Shiva and Shakti to this rock bottom where we say the Maya has become the problem and because of which individuality has come. Individuality is not Lord's creation. Individuality is not Lord's creation. Lord's creation, Ishvara's creation is, or the infinite creation is, where the consciousness and matter interact with each other. Yes, that one reality has, as if to experience itself, become the two, Ishvara and Prakriti, Ishvara and Maya. That is all it is. And because of that Maya, yes, the Ishvara impregnates her, desires that she becomes the many, she becomes Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. From the Sattva, the Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar come at the totality level. At the Rajas level, the senses come. At the Tamas level, the 5 elements come and the body comes. Gross element and the tamasic element, the body comes. So with this, the Virat Purush is made. In that Virat Purush, in that total person, which is a natural phenomena which is going on, which we call the creation, in that all of us are only a speck. Just like a wave is nothing but water, we are nothing but that Purusha and Prakriti, Shiva Shakti Samavesh right now. There is no question of individuality here. So where has this individuality come? No, it has just come. It has come out of our own identifications. Why has this identification come about? We blame Maya.
In some they say because of Maya it does two things. It doesn't let you seek what is truth, and then it veils the truth.
That gap, from knowledge point of view, we say that, right? We say that. But it is the same Maya, same scriptures which are saying Maya expresses as the Gyan Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and this is always supporting you to know the truth. Also Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Kriya Shakti is Tamas, Ichha Shakti is Rajas, Gyan Shakti is Sattva. Same scriptures are talking about these 3 words. Why don't we take that and only keep harping on the Maya? That it is an obstacle, it is an obstacle, it is an obstacle. It is not an obstacle. You look at the creation, continuously the creation is surrendering itself to its source. You look at the creation, the source is continuously surrendering itself to become the creation. Look outside. The flower is dying to become a fruit. The fruit is dying to become more flowers. Isn't it? The river, all the rivers of the ocean are dying to become the ocean. The ocean is continuously dying to become more rivers. Shiva Shakti Samavesh. Where is individuality there? Nothing. But we all those examples that we take have a limited understanding. Don't just get stuck with that. But where has this individuality come from? Out of our own misconceptions, because of our own identifications, because of our insistence that I am only this body. God did not make us to be like this, to be only this body. The the Lord's phenomena, the eternal phenomena which is going on, which is always, in that there is no lack or there is no growth, and that is the Virat Purush. That is the Virat Purush. It does not become less, it does not become more. Just like all the cells in this body of mine are, and each individual cell, similarly we are all one, we see, it seems that we are one part of that Virat Purush. But does an individual has an independent existence apart from this total being? It doesn't. Similarly, we don't have an independent existence apart from that infinite being. But we have created our own identity, thinking we are intelligent. And that's where the problem is, in this identification. If you have to identify, why don't you identify with the total, which you already are? Why you have to identify only with this body? And then, because of that, all the miseries, all the seeking, all the problems, all the challenges. Just like how we are intoxicated with this world, how we are head over heels with regards to this body, how much efforts we take to take care of this body, to take care of our house, keep it clean, keep the room clean, keep the clothes, how much effort goes into it? Because we have taken it to be real. This is me. We want to maintain our relationships. We want to, go for a coffee, go for dinners, maintain our social circle, all that, because we have given it importance, so much importance. When same importance that we are giving to the world to maintain our individuality, when the same importance is given to the divine, wonders will happen. Wonders will happen. But we don't. And therefore it is told that only some rare people are there who are able to come out of it. Are you the rare one? Find out. No, we don't know. The only thing we can do is strive to inculcate that love towards the Lord. Am I one of those, or am I one of those who will, after hundreds of lives, come to know the Lord? Remember that story of the two meditators? One, when he knew that he has to live so many lives more, on that tree, he gives up and walks away in frustration that I wasted my life meditating for so long, because I have to live so many more lives thinking of the Lord. Because where is his attention? On the world. So he wants to make the Lord the means and the world the goal. But what was the attention of the other one? He says, what? It is only that many. So fixed number. So where was that fixed number? Only in his mind. But the moment he saw the grace of the Lord, that Lord has given him an answer, he forgot about the number of lives and became absolutely surrendered and in love with that Lord who has given him an answer. The Lord said, this fellow has already, in that moment of extreme identification with the Lord, all his sanchit karma was destroyed. And the Lord came straight there and then. It is possible for you also. These are not just stories to make you feel happy. It can happen. When will it happen? Now. Believe it. Have faith. tat prapya, so tadeva avalokayati, tadeva shrunoti, tadeva bhashayati, tadeva chindayati, tat prapya. Having attained, having reached this kind of perfect devotion, and this devotion is that which has transcended everything, and he has come to become one with his beloved. The devotee comes to that one principle, comes to that one reality, comes to that one supreme love in which the mind has merged himself. The mind does not have an independent existence as such, and thus by such a devotee from now onwards he sees, hears, feels, thinks only the truth and truth alone. He cannot but speak about the truth wherever he is, whether in the waking dream or the deep sleep. About this, just one example is coming. Swami Anubhavananji was having his cataract, not cataract, but a hernia operation. And he said, come over, I am having operation. And so I said, okay. He didn't say come over, I said, I am coming. So I went to Coffs Harbour. And it was a keyhole surgery. But after the surgery, you need about 2 days. It required about 2-3 weeks to become the pain to go away. But within 1.5, 2 days, you can start walking. Not like the old times where you have to rest for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks. So he had been given the morphine and the operation was done, and Swamiji was just lying there. So what to do the whole day? So he was in the hospital, we were sitting on the floor and I was meditating. And suddenly next morning he came out of it. Where am I? Swamiji, ठीक हो ना? हाँ, क्या कर रहे हो? In a very, what do you call, drunken voice he was speaking. Drunken voice. नशा चढ़ा हुआ है मॉर्फिन का. So, I said, Swamiji, we are just sitting in meditation. I was dreaming that I am guiding you in meditation. Sit down again. And in that mumbling or dreamy voice, he continued guiding us. And I don't know how 2-3 hours we went into meditation. In that state also. Half awake, half dead to the world. Then afterwards we told him, Swamiji, this is what it is. He said, I can't remember anything. In my sleep also I was giving lectures. Because no cognition at all of what he was doing. After he came out of it, no idea. He says, do you remember I was rubbing your hand, I gave you water, you told us sit down in meditation, and then for about 45 minutes you were speaking, and then, no, I can't remember anything. यार ये पहली बार हुआ है कि मैं सपने में भी मैं लेक्चर देता हूँ. तो कहते हैं now I have become fully Bakasur. बकते रहो बस. Bakasur is one Rakshas who devours everything. He devours everything. But another meaning of Baka is the one who can't stop talking. So that Rakshas who keeps speaking, doesn't care whether others are listening or not, keeps speaking. So such a mind then starts seeing only, as long as a little bit mind is there, all he is seeing is the play of that one reality expressing as the many. Still that cognition is there. That is the penultimate step. After that step is this, where I and the Lord alone are there. In Vedanta we will say The penultimate thought is Aham Brahmasmi Vritti, means I am that, I am that, I am that, and this is going on. This becomes your immediate experience. You are just with it. But as long as this idea is there in your mind, I am that, and you understand that is that infinite, and therefore I am also that infinite. This is the result of that thought. Then eventually even that thought also dies away, and only that one alone remains. Same thing here, as the devotee with his love is coming towards his beloved, eventually he realizes everything is his beloved alone. Everything is that Lord alone. All the equipments are that Lord alone, not only in him, but everywhere and everything and everyone is nothing but an expression of that Lord. Now how many times will he keep thinking, Achha, this is also Lord, this is also Lord, this is also Lord. Don't have to do that. It's just a knowingness. And eventually that slowly subsides. Even the manyness, how that Lord is expressing for the mind, even that manyness is given up, not by you, but it goes away, it drops you. And then only you are left. And who is you? You and the Lord. In devotional other texts it is said, you first listen to the stories of the Lord. So the Lord is there, the Lord's friends are there, the other characters are there, the cows are there, the gopis are there. But as you listen to the story, your love for the Lord becomes more and more. Now you don't want other characters, you want only the Lord. So your mind becomes focused on the form of the Lord. Then as your mind becomes single-pointedly focused on the form of the Lord, and you are in devotion to Him, praying to Him, playing with Him, you and Him, slowly you don't want to be disturbed by the various limbs of the Lord. So then what do? Automatically your attention goes to one part of His body which is very dear to you. Either it is the two lips or the two eyes or the 2 feet. And your mind gets focused, and now you want to know, who is this Lord? Is He what my eyes are seeing or the mind is imagining, or what is His essence? My mind is seeing the form, but Lord is infinite, then who is He essentially? When this thought comes in your mind, it will only come when you become single-pointed on Him. And when this thought comes, you don't want the form also of the Lord. The Dvait, they will want. The Vishishtadvait, they will not want. They will want to merge into Him. So when you want to merge, then naturally from all the limbs and which become distractions for the mind. Should I think about his earrings? Should I think about the Kaustuba gem? Should I think about the yellow pitambar? Should I look at his beautiful arms? Should I look at his neck? Should I look at his eyes? Should I look at his toes? Arre baapre, too much confusion. I want to know the Lord as He is, not with all these different distractions. So you go to His 2 lips, or to His 2 eyes, or to His 2 feet. Some people go to the Sudarshan Chakra, some people go to whoever your Lord is, to the Trishul or to the Damru. Whatever is required, it will be revealed where you go. And when you start concentrating to that point, now the 2 lips. Now from the many limbs, you have come to the 2 lips or the 2 eyes or the 2 feet. And you put your attention where the 2 lips meet. You put your attention where the 2 eyes meet. You want to look at both the eyes of the Lord with your eyes. As you are looking at both the eyes, your attention goes to the center of both the eyes. You look at the 2 feet, your attention goes to the center of the 2 feet. You look at the 2 lips, your attention goes to the center of the 2 lips. Because you want to merge into Him. So, what is the doorway to merge into Him? Between the 2 eyes, between the 2 lips, between the 2 feet. And you dive into that contemplation. And where in that contemplation the lips vanish, you vanish, and only that one is left. That is the culmination, that is the climax of devotion. that is being told here by Narad Muniji in a bit more knowledgeable way. That is the beauty. But it is only available to some rare ones who are ready to put everything that they have into remaining alert with their sadhana every moment of their existence. And in this way, even the thought I and the thought Narayana, the thought I and the thought that, I am that, everything gets obliterated and only that one without a second principle remains. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Adaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om. We'll meet at 11:30. No, we'll meet at 11:45.